Well, hello everybody. Welcome back. I just had some thoughts that I would like to share with you. And there isn't really any direct advice or any full-on solution I can provide, as I know there's a lot of, for lack of a better term, there's a lot of holes in the philosophy. There's a lot of ways that would make it difficult in order to actually incorporate. But what I'm asking you to do is just to keep this in mind. So I had a pretty full day today. I went on a long hike. I traveled through several different areas of town. And, I had a free day today. It was a day off, whatnot. And I experienced a lot of different people of all different walks of life. Okay? And it was actually a really good, social day. There was a lot of, very receptive people, lots of conversational type people, extroverted people, people that were just down to say hi, down to talk, down to whatever. And that's great. And this is something that's been on my mind for a while, but as I was exposed to so many different people today, I realized that there's so many, non-receptive people out there. There's so many people that are closed off for whatever reason. It could be very innocent reasons to very deliberate reasons, like they could just be naturally introverted. They could be shy. They could have other things on their mind, whatnot. But then there's people that are deliberately behaving that way, even though you can just read from their body language that they're not really that way. And a lot of times there's valid reasons for that too. A lot of times, people are very disciplined in their social time and their private time. They're very disciplined in their social time and their family time being two separate things, which is a very positive attribute to have. And some of them are very distrusting of new people because of very terrible things that have happened to them. Very reasonable concerns they might have due to things that have came up in their past. So all of that is very, to repeat the same thing, is very understandable, right? But at the same time, if you were to have a professional documentary crew or something like that, haul those people aside in a safe environment where they could just share their thoughts, and the reporter or the interviewer, whatnot, were to ask them something like, if we were living in some sort of video game or something like that, and your interaction with any given person could save them from all of a sudden being swallowed up by a chamber of spikes or something that was going to open up, they fall into it and crushes them and they die. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I'm just in a fictional world. If this reporter was asking if your social interaction with any given person could prevent that from happening, would you do it? Or if they were to say that person that was walking alone, if some magical deity came down and you could make a wish for them, and you had two choices, you could wish that they, met somebody, whether that be romantically, a really solid friendship, a really awesome, business relationship, whatnot, or you could wish for them to be alone for the rest of their life and never meet anybody in any sort of capacity. I bet every single one of those non-receptive people would be like, oh, totally, if I could stop that person from falling into a pit of spikes, I would totally do whatever it takes to stop that from happening. And unless they're like a complete sociopath, a psychopath, or just like a really bad person, which there are people like that out there, they would say, oh no, I totally would not want that. Like, yeah, I might not, I might be disciplined in my family time as opposed to social time, or I might be reluctant to trust just any given person because of things that have happened to me. But no, if I could make a wish on their behalf, like I want them to find the woman, I want them to find the man, I want them to find the friendship, I want them to have the business relationship that works out great, whatever. Like I would never wish for them to be, you know, for them to be secluded forever. Um, and then in a different scenario, you could say, um, you know, what do you think about people like just being social and talking to people in this isn't in a fictional world, this is just in the real world, and they'd say, oh yeah, well, it's fine, I'm disciplined in this, or I have certain times for this, that, and the other. I'm reluctant to trust that kind of a thing because of whatever's happened to me in the past. But you know, they would say, I think most of the time they would say, you know, I think that they mean well by what they're doing, and I'm not against what they're doing. I just deliberately have this social discipline, or I have this lack of trustworthiness or whatnot. And I think basically, before I just keep rambling and lose the point that I'm trying to make, is just I think that they would say, but it's their responsibility to find somebody for them. It's their responsibility to you know, start their own business, whatnot. It's their responsibility to get into the relationship that works for them, to find the friendships that work for them, whatever it might be. So a lot of times people have that sort of disciplinary thought process, so that's why they kind of test people. That's why they sort of pull back from people. That's why they're reluctant to strangers, whatnot, right? Um, it's not really because they didn't read the body language that this person's actually okay, or that they're actually concerned about that person as an individual. They have sort of a hard ass mindset of like, that's this person's responsibility. But at the same time, in the fiction, looping back to the fictional world, they would say, oh no, I would do whatever it takes to not have that person fall into a pit of spikes. I would do whatever it takes. I would be the one, if I really had to I would wish everything against them being secluded for the rest of their life. So I think in society in general, there's a contradiction there. I think there's a massive gap, and it's not fully explainable, because you can't say to people that are like that, like, oh, because they might say, like, oh, this is sort of cheating. Like, yeah, of course, this is like that's a fictional world. Like, of course, that would never actually happen. If it was, obviously, I would be behaving appropriately for that, but that's not actually what's happening. So why even put that on me, right? And but what I'm asking you to do is just to keep that in mind, because there's no practical solution for that. Like, you can't say, oh, imagine that that's going to happen every time you meet a stranger, and just act as if that was the case, because then you know, you would be taken advantage of, you would be used and abused, you would be made a fool of. And then at the same time, you can't necessarily really say, oh, well, that's not the reality we're living in, so just forget all about that and just leave the onus up to everybody for whatever situation they happen to be in life, and it's their responsibility to deal with it, because we all know that human beings are a pack animal, we're a herd animal, we need to collaborate with each other, right? So there's no practical solution to sort of have a better experience, for there to be a less awkward experience between like the highly socially receptive people to the socially non-receptive people, and have it work in a way that clicks together like Lego pieces or anything like that. Like, there's no practical solution to give to you. But I think for either side of the situation, for people to just keep the knowledge in their mind, if that makes any sense. Like, the non-receptive people, just imagine that, the fictional scenario I played out with the being alone forever and the pit of spikes and whatnot. Just keep that in their mind when they go out. And then for the highly receptive people, like myself included, to keep sort of the stone cold realism, like it's your responsibility, it's nobody else's responsibility, whatnot, in your mind also at the same time. And not try to manifest it in any sort of physical way that is like some sort of method that you're trying to pull off, but just for either side of the coin to keep that in mind and just have it as a knowledge base that's in there when you're out in the social realm, when you're out in public. Might, at a micro level, cause these two extremes in society to sort of think slightly different and have a better way of merging together in a way that isn't so awkward, in a way that isn't so much like us against them, like introverts versus extroverts, men versus women, disciplined hard asses versus, hippies or spoiled people or something or whatever, right? Like, just for either side to have just a thought process like that in their mind that's unspoken, that can subtly, in a nuanced way, sort of through the body language they're exuding, through the word usage that they're using, to sort of create a slightly less awkward situation so that the two sides can sort of work together a bit more like we're supposed to as human beings, like we're supposed to as a herd species, as a pack animal per se. So yeah, that's just something I went on a long hike today, like a strenuous hike today. I went through all sorts of different areas of town. I interacted with all kinds of different people. 90% of it was positive, but I was interacting with all sorts of people of all different walks of life, cultures, ethnicities, whatever. And that was just something that was rolling around my mind about halfway through the experience. As somebody that's very extroverted, very social, very receptive, very able to handle even people that are meaning not well, I'm somebody that's like equipped to handle those kinds of people. Some people have a harder time with that, right? So it's just something that was rolling around on my mind the whole time. And I think, yeah, just keep that in mind on either side of the coin and things can fit together a little better. Okay, so I won't ramble on anymore. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please come back for more.